My name is Carmine Rodi. I was born in Italy and I live in Prague. I have a background as a journalist. I'm a blogger, an author. I've been a trainer and youth worker in the European context since 2002. I'm a stand-up comedian and a psychotherapist in training, which means I get bored very easily. But also it means all my professional experience is about words and stories and how they can put things together or break things apart. This will be what we do today. We will have a look at the story. And it doesn't have borders. Darko, I keep saying, that's your surname. Darko was mentioning Italy. This won't be about Italy because it's in the digital world. Digital world is borderless. Although the material we will see is in English language, because first of all, it's the 97% of material that's online, and it's the material I could choose to bring to you in international environment. How this will relate to national contexts is the homework you have to do. It is already, and there are many connection points, but they are very different from region to region. We will do that maybe later in the questions. Do you think it's good to start the presentation with a question? So I just did it. It's very meta, yes? But I have another one. What do you think young people want? Fire away. Jobs. Really? I challenge that. Really? Income. Haha. Happy life. To belong, to be left alone. Meaning, sorry, what? Drugs. So income for drugs. These are all freedom. These are all very valid questions. And some of them can be grouped together in the answer I'm trying to give. I think basically they want two very broad things. And one is community. So belonging, to be seen or to be left alone, drugs, jobs. And the other one is to break the rules. Now, take it or leave it. This is my starting point for the story. Now, I chose the photo from Paris, 1968. It's forbidden to forbid. That was one of the mottos of the slogan of the 68, not only in the Western world. And this is already the motto which is motivating trolls and youth cultures online. This will be my thesis. Online trolls, however right-wing we may call them, are nowadays counterculture, or they see themselves as. They want to break the rules. They see themselves as rock stars. Now we're going to see some memes, okay? And you can laugh or not. You can laugh and feel bad about it, or you can just not laugh at all. The definition of funny is something for another day. Some of the material will be extremely controversial and maybe even insulting. It's been chosen on purpose also for the shock value because it's afternoon and I need to keep your attention on. Apologies in advance. This takes a few seconds to land. Right, so what is a meme? It's an element of a culture passed from one individual to another by imitation. A meme is to culture what a gene is to biology. It's an element of culture that can be replicated. The use of humor is essential. Already Federico was mentioning it before, because it allows people to tackle any issue, even the most disgusting, while at the same time keeping a distance. And it's this element of calculated ambivalence. You never know if a troll means it or not. Now, this is a meme with Putin. Give that meme maker a life prison. Does he mean it? Does he not? Is he criticizing Putin or actually praising him? And the answer is we will never know, because we miss the context, and in humor, context is everything. That's why memes are especially tricky and especially effective as a form of communication. So all these memes are not found on some dark web place that I only have access, but they can be found on Google Images if you just search for incorrect memes. So any 12 years old can see all this, and probably is. Another tricky thing about humor is very useful to create groups, social groups. I tell a joke, you laugh, I hope. We feel part of a group. I tell a joke, so some people get it, they laugh, they feel part of a group, and the others don't. So humor culturally has been developed, some say, as a form of creating and defining human groups and cultures. But also, it can be extremely powerful to normalize topics. And this is a double-edged sword. If I tell a joke about mental illness, maybe I want to normalize the conversation about mental illness, and I think that's a good thing. Or maybe I tell a joke at a person with mental illness, and in that sense, I'm normalizing making fun of people. And it's still a joke. But that's, as I said, it's another story. Donald Trump is considered the God Emperor of trolls. God Emperor is a reference to a video game and board game, Warhammer 40,000. If you don't know what it is, the young people you work with will. So he's considered the king of the kings of the trolls. And another assumption is the left can't meme. Are memes only right-wing territory? And I have to admit, I wasn't considering the liberal point of view, so I would like to be pointed in the direction of some liberal memes. There must be. I think left can meme, but they started too late. These are some left-wing memes. You're laughing now. And it's been proven that left-wing memes are shifting, especially younger generation, towards Marxism and socialism, even in the US. Memes are especially good to spread counterculture because they have to be edgy and a bit uncomfortable. Otherwise, they don't work. It's like a dull razor blade. I will skip this for time reason and move here. Where do trolls come from? Where do they live? They live online mostly. They used to live under the bridges, and now they live on websites. The point of many of these communities, especially 4chan and Reddit, is they're anonymous. And anonymity, as we know, creates interesting phenomena. Now, just to give an idea of the scale, Reddit has 1.6 billion visits a month. Billion with a B. And 4chan, 22 million visits a month. So we're talking about countries, but big, big countries. And on these websites, historically, a culture of breaking the rules has been created. It's divided in sections. There are so many sections. I spend hours and hours and hours navigating them. And then after, I feel I need a shower. But it's very informative. Trolls identify with today's counterculture, started as a transgressive movement and didn't start as a right-wing thing, but it became partially, more or less after 2014, identifying with topics as anti-feminism, ethnocentrism or anti-immigration, conspiracy theories of all kinds, anti-Semitism, anti-liberalism, anarchism. So I will never say that this is something easy, and after today's presentation, we understand how it works. These are very complex galaxies with a lot of subcultures and a lot of infighting and sabotage. It's like Game of Thrones, but with billions of players. But this is generally speaking the picture. A very interesting analysis of how it started has been made by Angela Nagel in the book Kill All Normies. A normie is somebody who doesn't understand troll culture. Is somebody who follows a mainstream life and gets the information from mainstream media. That's a normie. And that's something to kill. This is a book written by a female author from a feminist point of view. And I think that's very important because of what I'm going to say. Feminist point of view. Why did troll culture start? One reason is the liberal, how did you call it, Sven? The liberal mistake. The politically correct culture seen as too much pressure and censorship. This is hateful. Thought control, thought police. You cannot say that, you cannot think that, this is the true, the only way to manage a group. It's especially disgusting and it's leading people to the right wing in mass. Of course, the liberal culture is full of contradictions, so how can we defend it as the only dogma? And the other factor, even more controversial, is the sexual revolution from 60s and 70s. So this is even more interesting. That's the idea. Sexual revolution freed people, men and women alike, from family obligations. And that's a good thing. The problem is it created a hierarchy of sexual subjects. Alpha males, this is the narrative, alpha males who can choose a lot of sexual partners, and they do, and beta males, who are at the bottom of the scale. And they don't get laid. And they stay virgin for years and years. This is how they identify themselves. But if you start to understand how it works, you can see where it leads. It leads to accumulating a lot of frustration, anger, and misogyny. And feminism and sexual liberation is identified as the reason of my problems. That's why a very, very strong online anti-feminist culture is growing. Also, gender culture threatens a lot of people's worldview. But there are excesses. On Tumblr, which is a very liberal, left-wing oriented social network, the users can choose up to 100 options for their gender, including vampires and dragons. And I'm not joking. And this is seen as excessive. This is seen as fantasy. And it creates a backlash. All this is discussed online in what's called the manosphere, which is a very interesting place to spend a weekend. Websites that promote neo-masculinity and in effect produce anti-feminism and open misogyny and hatred for women. Websites like The Return of the Kings, I'm not talking about The Lord of the Rings, but the reference is there. This guy sells books as a profession, online books, Rush V. Books like Bang Ukraine, banging, have sex with. Tips for guys who want to travel Eastern Europe and have easy sex. Don't bang Denmark, because Danish girls are considered too westernized and therefore not good for the game. His only source of income is selling books online. He has 15 books published. They've been taken away from Amazon after he wrote a post suggesting that rape should be legalized. He later said he was joking. Men going their own way is even more interesting. The motto is, it's a place where the modern man protects his own sovereignty, dignity, above all else. In other words, it's a manifestation of one word, no. There are thousands of articles and thousands of pages that are educating young men to go their own way. This is part of the jargon that you can find if you spend time in those places. A basic bitch is the equivalent of a normie, but female. A girl who is mainstream will be identified as a basic bitch. Forgive me for the language, but I think this is educational and it is important. It's always worse when girls are involved. Normie versus basic bitch. They are treated with the highest contempt. Maybe from now on, maybe you have already, I don't want to underestimate the audience, but from now on, maybe you will identify these signs on forums and online environments, or maybe the young people you work with will reference from time to time, and those are big red flags. This is another meme. It's the idiot nerd girl. It's a girl who wants to fit in with a group of boys, but she doesn't get it. She doesn't have all the cultural references. There are many memes about this girl who wants to be a gamer, but she only knows Angry Birds. It's already gone offline. It's not only a place online. This guy, in 2014, made a mass shooting, and he posted the video the night before on YouTube. Elliot Rogers. It's chilling. You can still find it online. This is one guy telling everybody, tomorrow I'm going to go and kill a lot of girls of my college because I am 22 and I'm still a virgin. And I'm the perfect gentleman. This is what he says in a 20 minutes long video. Nobody took it seriously. And on Reddit, people started to troll him. Good luck. Don't forget to use weapons, automatic weapons, and da-da-da-da-da, because that's the culture of trolling. He really did it. The irony is that he couldn't enter the female dorm, so he ended up killing people in the streets, mostly men, and then killing himself. He is now known as the god of incels, and if you don't know this particular definition, incel is an involuntary celibate. A guy who is virgin against his will, incel, and it's big internet jargon. He's been also emulated in 2018 in Toronto. Since it's Canada, he couldn't use firearms, and so he took a van and drove over people. And the day before, he wrote, "The incel rebellion has already begun. We will overthrow all the Chad and Stacy's." These are code names for random guys and girls. "All hail the supreme gentleman, Elliot Rogers." So this is another mass killing emulating the first one. So you probably see where I'm going. This is a huge community of millions of people who meet, and they first start to share. They share their problems, their insecurities. The age is from very, very young to 30-something. I'm old for them. I'm first-generation internet user. We had Netiquette back then. And I'm not saying all those who go to these websites become extreme right-wing activists, but they are exposed to the themes. And some enter from the door of anti-feminism, some will enter from the door of white supremacy, and more. But just like in the left, you have intersectionality that suggests that all the victims of abuse share the same battle, in short. The same is on the right, and we saw it in today's presentation. If I am attracted to an ideology because of my fear of immigrants, I will also sympathize with anti-feminists, because it's the same fight. Okay, so this was an operation, world-building operation. There are historical landmarks, heroes, and villains. One hero is Donald Trump. We will see some villains. The first battle that brought all together is Gamergate. I see some heads nodding. For everybody else, this probably is totally new. In 2014, this was the perfect storm of trolling, and this was only online. This still continues now, Gamergate. You can search it on Twitter, and you will see that there are thousands of messages every random day relating to this. What happened was, in short, one video game blogger, Anita Sarkeesian, decided to open a YouTube channel describing how women are represented in video games. And she loves video games, so she wants to improve the medium. That's a good thing. Now, ladies are sometimes represented very badly on video games, overly sexual or as the victim to be saved. And this was the story she wanted to tell. She crowdfunded her channel. She got a lot of support. People started to hate her. And it was a coordinated attack. You can see on the top of the page some of the messages she received on a daily basis. Her Wikipedia page was regularly vandalized with pornographic images. Somebody was creating videos with her being raped. Somebody created a video game in which you could punch her face and then see the violence. Of course, all of this was done to prove that there was no sexism in video games. Imagine having this sort of violence every day in your life for years. But this made stories on New York Times and The Guardian and everywhere, so make no mistake, this is big news. Another story very similar is Zoe Quinn, game designer. She designed a game to describe her own depression called Depression Quest. The game is bad, but she received positive reviews, and some people started to think it was because she was giving sexual favors to game journalists. Now, believe it or not, that's the story. And she received the same hateful treatment. False nude pictures, information about her family and her home address were made public to everybody on Reddit, which means billions of people. And this is really as bad as it gets. The online culture polarized, pro, against, and this went on for years. The last New York Times story was a week ago about Gamergate, how it started and what are the consequences now. This is considered the first major accident in which, for the first time, many young people became politicized. Before there were internet trolls, but they started to believe that they could have an impact on the real world. And they did. They now regularly, and when I say they, I mean a headless monster, they sabotage movies or video games that are considered too leftist or politically correct. And there's a number of examples. Total War game was featuring female generals, and people started to write horrible reviews about the game, not mentioning female generals, but they wrote horrible reviews. And you know, when you read reviews, you may be influenced and you may not buy the game. So this is a way to attack a major corporation, which will lose millions of dollars. And they know it very well. They know how to play video games, so they are very good at coordinating strategies. And I know because I'm one. Disney and Marvel. Brie Larson is a vocal feminist. She was just advocating more diversity in movie critics, right? How is that a bad thing? It was a bad thing. The movie was reviewed negatively even before it was released. Attacking Disney head on, this is what we're talking about. People are afraid of nothing. Now, my motivation to be here and give you this speech is that I could have been one of them. Because digital culture is my culture. I'm a huge geek. I grew up in Napoli, which is a dangerous place, and I couldn't play outside. I had to play inside. And when video games appeared, it was my dream and my friend's dream. Now, obviously, I was drinking different water than these guys, but I've seen my friends, some of my friends shifting. And I started to ask, what is happening? What do they read? What do they believe in? Who is telling them what's going on? And this is an important part of my work. I use digital tools and video games every day in my work as trainer and youth worker, because it can be good. It is not only that. This is a meme where somebody's poking at the Gamergate bear, and they say, well, what's the worst that can happen? And then you have Brexit and Donald Trump elections. People vote in mass for their favorite heroes, Farage and Trump, and every country has their own version. Now, in some countries, this internet culture is not big yet, but it's arriving, and you can start to see the signs. You can start to see the tip of the iceberg. In Italy, certainly. There's no need in Italy for anti-feminist narrative because it's already very bad. They don't need any help. But you have the anti-immigrant narrative, or pro-Russia, for example, pro-Putin. Cultural influences. The Matrix, hugely popular movie. There is a scene in which Morpheus gives a choice to the hero, Neo, and the protagonist can choose a blue pill or a red pill. If he takes the red pill, he enters the Matrix, and the movie starts. Red pill is big code word for getting the truth, being initiated. And you will see it everywhere. I've been red-pilled. My red pill was in 2014. It is like losing a virginity, which is a complete paradox because the Matrix was about two transsexual people coming out. The two authors of the movie were brothers, and now they're sisters. So this is a story about diversity, but it's been completely hijacked and twisted into a narrative of division and hate. Fight Club for the nihilism, and the fantasy culture which creates an ideal past where everybody was white and Europe was great. So also video games and also fantasy movies that I love, like Lord of the Rings, they have a role in creating an imaginary past which is not real because historians are struggling, but Europe was very diverse in Middle Ages. It's not all blonde, white people courting women, but this is the ideal past that websites like The Return of the Kings is trying to create. Nietzsche, which is very dear to right-wing thinkers for his disdain of the masses and the cult of the hero, but also left-wing thinkers. Where is the left? Gramsci has been hijacked by these people. Gramsci believed many things, it's a very complex thought, but one idea was that political change follows cultural change. Cultural hegemony has to be conquered first, and then political change will come. The left is, I don't know where, but these guys are doing it. And contemporary ones, I had to choose one that's living, Chomsky. The cultural industry manufactures consent. Sorry, I'm standing right in. Another story. This is a comic character. Who knows Pepe the Frog? Right. He was created in 2014, I think, as a comic book character, rather harmless. The stories were juvenile, not especially attractive to me, but there was nothing political in Pepe. Somewhere down the line, he became the mascot of the right-wing online culture, which, by the way, goes under the name of alt-right, which is one of the ways to call them. Alt as alternative, but also alt as the keyboard, because mostly it's developed online. Pepe is already in the real world, and you will identify the signs. Here is a number of memes. And this is, you understand how many layers are there. A person who sees this understands immediately, this is one of us. This is about migration in the UK. Here you can see Donald Trump and Marine Le Pen. Here is about Hungary, Poland, Latvia. I would love to talk. This is a very controversial political leader of the 30s who was also a collaborationist with the Nazi regime, but the Baltic history of the Second World War is complicated. So he's also seen, correct me if I'm wrong, as a right-wing icon. Latvia. Jewish conspiracy behind 9/11. It gets as bad as it gets. At the beginning, trolling was for fun. I see that some of you guys are destroyed. You look shocked. I'm sorry. There is good at the end. I promise, Inge. I promise there is some good news at the end. But this is bad. At the beginning, trolls just wanted to have nihilist fun. Somewhere down the line, it changed. Even if I'm trolling just to create confusion, I'm actually influencing and supporting an environment that leads to this. Yes, this needs no comment. This is Pepe and the normie. The normie has a McDonald's job, and you see he's miserable. Pepe is empowered. And this is how he treats a basic bitch. The T stays for Tumblr. And this is even worse. It's shocking pornography, but again, I didn't have to do any special search to find all this material. It's all there. I had to Google Nazi Pepe. First page. And finally, this is the last bit, before I promised a bit of relief. Some leading figures. Let's not make the mistake that all these people are ignorant, rednecks, blue-collar, unemployed, without education. They have their heroes and they have their intellectuals. Weave is a hacker who makes, he claims, millions of dollars just by hacking websites. And he's a Nazi. He has a swastika tattooed on his chest, in case there is any doubt. You see the green pyramid? It's a Pepe reference, and it's vomiting rainbow flag. He believes trolling is internet eugenics. He wants everybody off the internet. Bloggers are filth, so this is personal to me. They need to be destroyed. We need to put these people in the oven. The question is, how do we kill 4 billion people in the most just way possible? He is considered one of the ideologues. This is a rock star, Milo Yiannopoulos, openly gay and British. He really was a rock star until he supported raping minors, and then his fame really dropped. And he says cyberbullying isn't even real. Imagine the damage that one person like him can do. I was one of the bullies in school. Carl Benjamin, online known as Sargon of Akkad, declared to a British member of the parliament, I wouldn't even rape you. He was a candidate for UKIP to the latest European elections. He wasn't elected. But my point is, online spills offline. He's immensely popular. He has almost 1 million YouTube followers. Rushdi is the author of the books I was telling you. When Trump was elected, he said, we now have a president who rates women the same way we do. Yay. Liberals will finally be forced to tolerate us now. There are so many of us that now can ease out of the closet. What are they going to do? Fire everybody who supports Trump? 750,000 visitors a month on his website. Now, please notice the narrative of victim, which was also present in every presentation today. People feel they are the victims. They've been bullied, they've been victimized, and now their time has come. Richard Spencer, who's a multimillionaire, is considered the inventor of the word alt-right. And he talks about ethno-states. He says, slavery did good to Africans. Slavery did good to Africans because now they can enjoy a lifestyle in America that they would never have in Africa. These are some of the ideas. And finally, Steve Bannon, last character. I'm a Leninist. Lenin wanted to destroy the state. That's my goal too. I want to bring everything crashing down and destroy all the establishment. Steve Bannon was appointed chief strategist of the White House after Donald Trump election. And he was the vice president of Cambridge Analytica. If the name is familiar, is the information agency that made Brexit and the Donald Trump election possible. He gave the name Cambridge Analytica to the company, Steve Bannon. He was fired from because he's too right-wing even for the Trump administration, and now his office is in Brussels, because this is the battleground he wants to be on. So that's it. Thank you very much. I promised you a little bit of what can we do to fix all this mess. I don't know, this is good for questions, but these are only some of my suggestions. How can youth work try to stop this tide? And this is just some ideas from me, just to end on a slightly different note. Trolling online is one thing. The best suggestion is ignore them. Don't feed trolls who will come to your Facebook and your YouTube channel and just spill hate. But we are working with people. And when working directly with people, it's different. And I don't think we should ignore them. Talk to them. Let them express ideas, however hateful, however provocative. Maybe through humor, they're just exploring a territory. If we stop talking about topics that we hate, the topics will not stop to exist. They will keep growing in the dark. And then they become too big to be handled. And this is what safe space culture and taboo culture, in my opinion, has also created. Let's not police thoughts and words. Let's not patronize. In other words, everything Hillary Clinton did in her campaign is wrong. Everything. Don't call names, fascists, racist. Nobody will ever change their mind if they're being called assholes. And let's not claim the higher ground. That's hateful. Higher moral, this is right and this is wrong. Higher intellectual ground. I know because facts, and you're an ignorant. I know because it's 2019, you shouldn't be saying that. And every year we keep changing the date, but we say the same thing. So it's the current year meme. And finally, empower, which is the word. They feel disempowered, they feel victimized. Let's empower them with specific tools adequate to their specific needs. And here I want to say, how many policies are there for white cisgender boys? How many programs do we run for white cisgender boys? Answer, I think very little. And they feel it, but they also feel pain, and they feel isolated and alienated in a society that's very complicated. And they say, hey, everybody else gets a special treatment, why not me? And they go online and they find people who listen. An average person spends 6 hours a day online today. This is the statistics from last week, 6 hours a day. We have 1 hour in the youth club. And finally, I promised last thing, show, don't tell. Instead of telling, this is a storytelling tip, instead of telling we should be pluralists, we should be open-minded, let's do it. Bring everybody together and we do gardening without saying what are the values that we want to promote on, but we do it. And that's maybe a long-term strategy. That we learn that working together in the garden actually promotes diversity and inclusion without even saying it, because that could be triggering. Just one tip. We don't know what's the answer, because otherwise Donald Trump wouldn't be the president now. And I think that's all. Thank you.